all the amazing snacks. My name is Leah, and I am a pastor in Fort Worth, Texas. And so I've known Pastor Brian for a long time and excited to get to be here this morning. And I'll be honest, when he called and asked me to come up here and he was like, hey, you're going to do a breakout session, I was like, on what? What do you want me to do it on? And he was like, whatever you want, which, if you do speaking, that's like my worst nightmare in the world. Whatever I want, give me some direction here. And so I really just spent a lot of time praying and asking God, like, really, God, like, what value would I have to bring? And I felt like God kind of revealed to me that sometimes I think we look at the season of life that we're in, and while we're waiting for something else, we waste where we are. And so I've been guilty of that, of being so focused on God, like I'm ready for this next thing that I waste the moments in front of me. And so over these last probably 5 to 6 years, I feel like God's really done a work in my own life and in my own heart to be able to see the value in where I am now and how I can bring value to those around me at the same time. But it took a process and it took a season of allowing God to get my not just my heart, but my mind to be in a healthy place. And so this breakout's called Prime Season. And I think, the idea being like, hey, this is our prime time to do the thing that God has for us right now. And so in order to do those things, the first thing that we have to do is prioritize ourselves. I said this statement last night, which is a little bit, shocking even to say, but like, it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to prioritize your own self, your own mental health, your own physical health, your own emotional health. I am 100% an introvert, and God's funny, and He's given me a job where I work with people. And so I've had to learn, how do I prioritize myself? How can I give of myself and be selfless without giving all of myself? And that's a hard balance to find. And so whether you're a single parent, a non-single parent, there's things in life that are going to pull at us constantly. And so we have to learn, how do we prioritize ourselves? The first thing is this: you're going to prioritize your own self-care. Prioritize self-care. I am a big fan of counselors. Like, I don't know why we wouldn't want to talk to somebody to help us become more healthy. And so if that's not part of your routine, maybe you've been stuck in a thought process, I would encourage you to find a counselor to talk to. Find a Christian one, because they're going to point you to Jesus before they point you to drugs. Not that drugs are bad, not that medicine's bad, right? Like, God's given us those things to help us, but a Christian counselor is going to point you to Him first. And then if you still need that, they're going to give you that as your secondary tool. So prioritize self-care. It doesn't have to be something fancy all the time. It doesn't have to be going to spa days and massages, or it could be whatever makes you feel better. I love being outdoors, so there's a group of us and we go play disc golf. It doesn't cost anything now that we have bought our disc. It's free, but it gives us an hour to 3 hours, depending upon how bad we are that day, or how windy Fort Worth is that day. And it gives us 3 hours outside of our normal mundane life to just get out in nature and feel good. So if you are a nature person, prioritize taking walks. Prioritize fishing. Prioritize playing golf. Prioritize painting or drawing. Whatever it is that fills you up, prioritize that. It doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to be going, to do your nails, although I love doing that too. It doesn't have to be that to be able to prioritize myself. Sometimes that just means I sit on the couch and watch TV, right? Like, it's okay. You don't have to make an excuse to do nothing. If you have the time, do it. Do nothing, right? Everybody wants us to be busy all the time. To prioritize yourself sometimes means saying no to being busy so that you can rest, so that the next thing you can do is be present and patient. Patience is really hard when you're waiting, right? I do work out often, and I joke because when we have like a 1-to-1 ratio, so if like we work a minute, we rest a minute, somehow the rest a minute always seems really short. I'm like, there's no way that is the same 60 seconds as when you're telling me I have to hold this plank. If I have to hold the plank, that's about 5 minutes, and my rest is 10 seconds, right? So waiting, it's hard because we don't like to be patient. But in order to take care of ourselves, we got to be patient sometimes in the process, right? God didn't heal me instantly from my thought patterns and things. He could have. He's God. He's almighty. there was a patient process I had to be willing to walk through with him. And so I would encourage you, wherever you're at in this process, to be patient. Give yourself grace in this. Celebrate small victories, okay? If you wait till the big victory, you're going to be waiting for a long time, right? So celebrate small things. Find people that are going to celebrate those things with you. So maybe if you never take a day off and you finally take a day off, that's a victory. Celebrate it. Okay, if you never do anything for yourself and you decide, I'm going to watch this show for 1 hour and not care about anything else in the world, that's a small victory. Celebrate it, okay? The third thing, that helps you prioritize yourself is stop comparing yourself to everyone else. Stop comparing yourself. If you were supposed to be like them, you would have been like them. Okay, if I was supposed to be like everybody else, then I would have been like them, but God made me to be me. And I know it's easy to say, and it's hard to believe, and it's hard to act out sometimes, but that's the reality. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Social media has killed us. Social media has made that a lot harder. And I'll be honest, I'm never going to post my bad hair day on here. Okay? That's not going to ever be my profile picture, my worst picture. Why? Because I want to make sure it looks good, okay? So don't compare yourself to somebody else's social media. Although it's so easy to do, to be like, man, they're always out doing fun things. Wow, they're out again and I'm home alone by myself. Yeah, but I have friends that post every day that they're doing like fun adventures with their family. But I work with them and I'm like, you did that 3 weeks ago. Like, that's not even what you did today, but 3 weeks ago you took your kids to the zoo, okay? So like, it's not reality. It's just their highlight reel. And so we're comparing our normal lives to somebody's highlight reel. Of course, it's going to not feel like it's as good. So let's stop comparing ourselves to other people and enjoy and celebrate, back to the celebrating small victories. Celebrate where you are in life. Celebrate the things going for you. It would be easy for me to compare myself to other people. Like you heard last night, I worked at a church in Houston for 10 years. I was very young when they hired me. I was 20 years old, and they hired me to come on staff there. And so I worked there for a decade. My parents lived in Houston. So for 10 years, I lived with my parents. Why? Because it was free and cheap. Okay? And that was a great rate for me, free and cheap. And so I lived with them for a decade. Then I moved to Fort Worth. And for 5 years, I lived by myself, had an apartment, did that. Let me tell you, rent's stupid. Okay? It's expensive. And if we're just being real, when you're single, it's really hard to save money when you're paying rent every month because you only got one paycheck, right? And so for 5 years, I did life, did my own thing, blah, blah, blah. My parents retired. I'm the youngest of 3, and so my parents retired. They moved to Fort Worth, and I told my brothers it's because I'm their favorite. Somehow I won over the grandkids, so somebody, try to disprove my theory here that I'm the favorite. Okay, the grandkids lived closer to Houston than I do, and they still picked me. So we're not recording this session, right? Okay, good. Thanks, Kelly. But now they moved to Fort Worth. And honestly, one of the reasons that they did this, and I have amazing parents, is because they were like, we want to give you the ability to save to buy a house. And so now at 36 years old, I'm living with my mom and dad, and I actually love this season. But it would be easy for me to compare where I am to other people and be like, man, I should have been further along, right? And so when I stopped comparing myself and I allowed God to change my perspective and my view, it got a lot easier. And it ended up being a huge blessing. My mom went through a big medical scare this summer, and so I was able to be there to help take care of her, be with my dad, and all of that process. And if they wouldn't have lived in Fort Worth, I would have been stressed financially and stressed at work because I'd have had to be away from the office for months at a time. And so allow yourselves to stop comparing yourselves, but to celebrate the victories of where you are, okay? Surround yourself with people that make you smile. People are important. They say dumb things sometimes, though, like, when are you going to get married? And you're like, I don't know. Do you know? Like, can you help me out here? Maybe God told you and not me. So the reality is they just aren't thinking when they talk. So, but surround yourself with people that make you happy. It sounds obvious, but we don't often do that. We pick people that make us work harder and all those things. So surround yourself with people that make you happy. And if you do that, it sets up the second thing about really highlighting this prime season, and that's being present with others. Being present with other people. We have a unique gift in our singleness that we can show up when other people can't. And sometimes I feel like I've allowed that to feel like a burden, like, oh, I'm always free, I'm always available. But really, it's a blessing. It's a blessing, and I'll talk about these four kids later. I have four nieces and nephews. Again, I said I'm the youngest of my family. So my brother, my oldest brother, is 11 years older than I am. 11 years and 2 days we're apart, and my next brother is almost 7.5 years older than me. And then there's me, and I'm the only girl in the family. That's why I say I'm the favorite. But when I was 16 years old, my brother had his first kid. And so me and my niece have kind of grown up together, but there's four of them. So I have a 21-year-old. No, let me not try to say their ages because I'll get them wrong. I can do their grades way better. She's a senior in college at New Mexico State. I have a sophomore nephew at Texas A&M, a junior in high school nephew, and a freshman in high school niece. I have been able to be more present for them in their lives than I ever could have been in a different season, in a different situation. I've been to every game, every sporting event, all of the things. There was a season when both of his parents, both of my brother and sister-in-law are both teachers, and so they don't get off during the day because they're teaching everyone else's children. And my nephew was in kindergarten, and it was a mommy makeover day or something. I don't know. Somehow I got roped into coming to this. And his mom couldn't get off work, and so I showed up for this 5-year-old to do my makeup. Now, I'm not dumb. It was already done, but he got to do it anyways. But there were moments that I was like, I would have never been able to do that. And for him, he was like, yes, you're here. You showed up. One of my biggest victories, probably one of my proudest things in life, is my nieces and nephews, they always answer their phone if I call. I'm like, you are a 16-year-old boy, and I called you, and you're in the car with all your friends, and you're like, it's loud. And he's like, hey, we're on our way to the movies. Can I call you back? And I'm like, you answered me? I'm thinking when I was 16, I don't think I would have answered if my aunts called me, and it's not because they didn't love me. But they live 600 miles away. Like, they just weren't present in my life. And for him, he's like, oh, I got to answer. She's calling me. I don't know why. I don't know what he thought I wanted. I was just seeing what he was doing. And so, like, be present with others. And they don't have to be related to you. I have several adopted nieces and nephews that are not blood to me, but they are family to me. Why? Because I've been able to be present. I've been able to be available and be able to be a second voice. And every parent that you meet would love to have somebody that loves God love their kids. I've never met a parent that was like, I really just want crack addicts and, Satanists to love my kids. Never have I met that parent. They're always like, wow, I would love for somebody that has the same morals and values that I do to spend time with my kid. Because really what they're trying to play the long game is if my kid can turn out like you, then I won. But the only way that happens is if we're willing to spend time with them. And so as a next-gen pastor, I oversee birth through young adults. I would be doing a disservice to y'all's churches if I didn't tell you, if you're available, spend time with kids. Right now, this generation that's coming up, and this isn't in my notes, but I'm just going to tell you because I feel like I should. This generation is being called the fatherless generation that's coming up right now because they don't have dads. And not only do they not have dads, they don't have godly dads. And so now more than ever, the church needs spiritual mothers and fathers to step in to show kids what does it look like when society is telling them everything is opposite of the Bible. They need people like us to step in there and go, hey, this is what it looks like to love Jesus for a lifetime. And you can do that too. So that was my free plug for your church. You can tell your kids' pastor that I said, you're welcome. But seriously, be present for others. Be present for others. Right now, I'm living in an incredible season of fun. My pastors that I worked for in Houston, that when they moved there, their kids were 5 and 3. And so for 10 years, I worked at the church, but I was really like their nanny as well. And I did life with them and took care of them. And now I'm getting to reap the benefits of that as their oldest son is 21 years old and works on staff with me at my church. And so I'm getting to reap the benefits of a lifetime of investing into a kid and getting to see him now loving Jesus and leading the next generation to love Jesus as well. And so what might seem like a little window of time, God can use that to multiply things beyond anything you could ever dream or imagine. So be present with others. Show up for your married friends. They need friends too. Just because they're married doesn't mean they don't need friends. They need somebody that's available to listen to them, to talk with them, to go shopping with them, to show up at their kids' games so that they have somebody to talk to in the stands when it's boring because they're 3 and they just chase the soccer ball in a group, right? Like, that's not exciting soccer. They chase it like a little herd of cats. They don't even know which goal's theirs, but it makes it a lot better if you have a friend sitting next to you drinking coffee, watching the kids run around in chaos, right? So show up for them, be there for them, and love well. Love well. Show up because you can. Um, there's moments in life that I've been busier or different seasons, but anytime I've showed up just because I could, it's meant the world to somebody. For about 6 years, me and my best friend, we grew up in high school together. I was there when her kids were born. In fact, I was watching her oldest child when the youngest one was born, and I brought her to the hospital to meet her little brother. All the things, right, that you would do for a best friend. But there was about a 5-year span because life was busy that we just didn't see each other. We just didn't see each other. We talked every now and then. And I mentioned before there was my mom had a big medical situation. She had a heart attack in May and led to quadruple bypass surgery, and all the things that could have went wrong, and it was touch and go there for several days. And the bridge, a lot of the people here at the church were praying for my mom, and praise God, she's healed. She's doing great. Finishing up cardio rehab now, only has about six sessions left. So like legitimately walking miracle. Like vital organs were shutting down. If you're a pastor, we make a lot of hospital visits, so my mind knew what that meant, even though the doctors weren't telling us. And so, but God was really good, and this friend of mine reached out to me. And in that process, God's really reconnected us. And so a few weeks ago, I was able to go show up and visit them. And it was funny because I haven't seen her kids in years. They were little. The last time I saw them, and her son came running to the door of my car, stopped and said, "Wait, who are you again?" And so we began to paint the picture of how he knew me and all of those things. And what's funny is because I am available and because I can show up, this 10-year-old little boy calls me every day. He FaceTimes me. This morning, I got a FaceTime from him at 8 a.m. before he went to his karate thing, just to see what I was doing. He said, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm getting dressed to go preach." "Well, why are you doing that?" Like, when you're available and people know that, they're going to reach out to you, and it doesn't have to be kids. It can be adults. It can be people in your church. It can be people at your workplace that are needing somebody. But when you make yourself available and you make it known that you're available, people will reach out and connect with you. Set reminders for things. That's one of the things I've learned, that you don't have to tell people you set reminders, but I set reminders all the time, and it's like text so-and-so, and it's on repeat so that I don't forget to text them, right? And so like every 3 weeks on Monday, it says text this person. And that maybe sounds weird, but it makes them feel valued, and it makes them feel seen. And it's not systematic. It's because I actually care about them, but I know life is busy. And if I don't put a reminder, then I will forget, and then it will be months, and then I'm going to feel like a terrible human because I didn't remember them. And so there's certain things like for my friends, when they go through hard times, if there's been a death in their family or something like that, I literally have reminders, and it's like anniversary of so-and-so's death, so that I remember to text them, "Hey, I'm thinking of you today. Hey, I'm thinking of you today." There's a young girl in our church that her dad passed away of COVID in 2021. The anniversary just passed this last week, but in my phone it said, "Text Lainey. Let her know you're thinking about her today." There's people like that in my life. My cousins, when my aunt passed away, I have that in there. Why? Because I don't want to forget. I want to love people well. And honestly, this thing can be like our biggest enemy or our biggest asset. And so I'm trying to figure out, how can I use this to love people better? And it doesn't always take a phone call, because that takes way too much time, okay? If I'm just honest, I want to cut through all the small talk and just tell you why you matter to me and why you're important. And so the reminders help so much for that. I would say this, another thing that helps you love well is to offer time and space. Offer time and space. Share with people when you are available. Hey, I know I'm busy these days a week, but you know what? Every Monday I'm free. If you ever need anything, I'm free. Hey, if you ever need somebody to help watch your kids, or if you ever want to just go hang out, if you ever want to grab coffee, Mondays are perfect for me. I'm always available. I'm not really available on Mondays, but I just picked a day. Uh, Fridays I'm free during the day normally, but so offer time and a space and give them your attention. Give them your attention. Again, I said this is like our greatest asset or our greatest enemy. And that's in everything I do in life, right? I love Apple products, but I also hate Apple products sometimes because everything's connected. So even when I'm in a meeting, my text messages are popping up on the screen, and I have to fight my attention to not look at that top corner because I want to know what that person just said to me, even though you're sitting right across from me, and you deserve my attention, but what they just said is probably really cool, and so I'm fighting it. In fact, I text somebody back the wrong answer the other day because I thought it was their sister, but it was actually the brother, and I had two very different meetings with them. And my response made no sense, and I was like, I'm so sorry. I thought you were your sister, and I'm in a different meeting, and I responded, so that's on me. So we have like a rule in our meetings. All of our phones go face down. They go face down, and if it rings, then we look, but if it's a message, we don't. And so I've tried to take that practice whenever I go out to eat. If I'm meeting with, if I'm out with friends, we stack all of our phones on top of each other in the middle, and whoever picks theirs up first has to pay the tip for the whole table. Like, that's just the rule, right? I don't have enough money to be like, you got the meal for the table, okay? So we stuck to the tip, okay? I'm a pastor, okay? But we stack them up, and that's become a way that we actually keep attention. Is we're like, hey, for a season, for this moment, for this hour, I can do without knowing who liked my Instagram post, or because let's just be honest, when I get bored, I just start scrolling. And then I start sending memes to people, and I'm sending these funny memes, and I'm laughing, but nobody else in the group has any idea why I'm laughing, right? And so we've just made a deal, like, hey, we're going to stack it up. Whoever picks theirs up first has to do this. And sometimes it's not has to do that. Sometimes it's something dumb that they have to go do. And we do that when we go out with our staff and with our teams, but also just for the fun of it, because why wouldn't you want to give somebody your attention? You would want their attention, right? And so find ways to give people your attention. Even in my group chats, like I have a half of those muted because I can't stand how much my stuff buzzes. And so sometimes that's the best thing you can do is mute some of the noise when you go out with people, or when you're talking with people, or if you're sitting with people, is just to be present. Be present. If you can be present, then you're going to love so, so well. Again, back to my nieces and nephews. I've been able to obviously spend a lifetime with them. But there's been different seasons that God's given me where I've been able to be more present. My oldest niece is 21. We're super proud of her. She's played softball her entire life. Since she was a little bitty, 5 years old, played t-ball. And now plays for New Mexico State. She's in her senior year, so we're all kind of feeling the emotions of like, wow, we've done this for a lifetime, and now this is like your last everything. But while she was doing that, there was seasons when she was playing tournament softball, and she traveled all over the world. Like, super proud of this kid. She played in Japan and Canada and all these crazy places with her travel team. But we had my nephews because they were like, we do not want to go to the field. We do not want to spend another Saturday out in the sun all day long. It's terrible. If we come to your house, you guys take us to the movies or swimming. We did all the cool, fun things because I was their young, fun aunt, that half the time they thought, I'd take them places and they'd be like, this is your mom, and the boys would laugh because they thought it was super funny. When you see their picture later, you'll be able to understand that, like, we all look alike. I'm not sure my sister-in-law's genes played any role in their process of them being created. The Carreon genes are very strong, and they all look like us. My oldest niece is my spitting image. But for that season, we had the boys all the time, and so I was super close to them. Super close. I would make jokes with my brother that it was like we had joint custody. We had them every other weekend and holidays. Because that was about the softball schedule, is every other weekend and holidays we had them, or they came because it was Christmas or Thanksgiving. And so I'm super close to them. Super, super close. They actually don't call me Aunt Leah. they call me Nina, which in Spanish, madrina is godmother, but my niece couldn't say it, so they all call me Nina. And so that even seems more endearing than Aunt Leah. And so my nephew Deacon and I and Junior and I are very, very close. And so there was a season when I felt like I didn't have time with my niece because I knew her and I loved her, but we didn't have the time together that we did. And then God, being God, is so funny. And her first 2 years of college, she played at UT Arlington while I live in Fort Worth. And her school from where I lived was only 25 minutes away. And so for this season, I prioritized her over myself. And there's going to be seasons when you're going to have to prioritize other people over yourself so that you can be present and to love them well. And so for 2 years, I went to softball games every Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and Wednesday night. For 2 years, I did not miss a game. In fact, they played against OU and, of course, got destroyed, and it was freezing cold and windy. I've never been as cold as I was that night, and much to our dismay, the wind was blowing out of the field, which did not help with the home run situation for OU versus us. In fact, on ESPN Sports Center highlight, there's a shot of my niece in a home run going out and her face doing this. Not her proudest moment, but we loved it. And so for 2 years, I got to be there. Like, I got to spend time with her. I got to show up for her. She came and stayed at my apartment every Saturday night so that she could go to church. And so don't miss out on those moments where you can be present, where maybe you felt like you weren't before, because that's been the greatest gift, because now that she's out of state again, she talks to me all the time. She texts me all the time. And what we're actually getting to see is that moments when we weren't sure, God, she's played a lot of softball. She hasn't always got to go to church. She hasn't always got to do these things. Like, have we invested enough? Because I've questioned those moments. 3 weeks ago, she texted us in our family chat and was like, hey, can you guys please pray? I invited my friend Cam to church. Cam lives in Canada, is from Canada. And she's like, Cam's never been to church in her entire life. Never. She's never gone to a church service, but Cam walked into my apartment, and on my coffee table was my Jesus Calling devotional. And she said, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's my devotion book. And she's like, I don't know what that means. And so she began to get to explain to her, oh, this is what I read. It helps me, learn more about the Bible. And so Cam went to church with her. On the drive home, she got to explain. She was like, shout out to VeggieTales, because I know Rack Shack and Benny, because that was the story we were talking about today. So I got to explain it better in detail. But now Cam wants to go back to church with her, right? And so it's because we were present. We were there. We were available. And so I know the guilt of feeling like maybe I missed out on being present. That was a real struggle for me when she moved there, because I was like, I don't feel like I'm as connected to her. God, I don't know how to connect, and really it was God giving me a gift. And so I would encourage you, don't allow a weight of maybe a missed opportunity to keep you from being present now in this moment. Because God has you there, and he has the people around you there for a purpose and for a reason. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to ask you guys in here just to close your eyes for a second. I'm not going to pray, but I want you to think about something. While I was talking, I'm sure somebody already came to your mind. Somebody's already come to your mind that is in your world, around your world, that you see, that you just instantly know, like, I could make a difference. It could be somebody your age. It could be a neighbor, a coworker, a friend at church. It might be somebody's kids in your world. But I believe God's already bringing to your mind who that person is right now. So I just want you to think about, like, what could I do? How could I love them better? How could I be more present for them? How could I use this season to my advantage and not let it be the weight of feeling like I'm stuck? How could I use this and not feel like I'm wasting it? And now, just as you're thinking, I want you to think about this. How can you, in that same vein, prioritize yourself? What's the thing that you feel like maybe you've been overlooking, neglecting? It might be your health. It might be your mental health. It might be family relationships. God, I thank you for seasons. Lord, you are a God of seasons. There's seasons of sowing, reaping, of harvest. God, while we don't know the length of seasons, you do. So, God, I just ask that you would help each one of us in here, God, maximize the season that we're in. Whether it's the season that we thought we'd be in, the season we hope to be out of, whatever season and emotions that are tied to that, God, I pray that you'd give us eyes to see opportunity and not obstacles. God, that you'd give us a heart to love others well. God, and in loving others well, Lord, I pray that you would also help us to prioritize ourselves, God, not to become doormats, God, not to become taken advantage of, God. But, Lord, to use our availability with wisdom. God, to use it to love others well, God, so that ultimately they see you through our lives. God, thank you for loving us. Help us to love others well. In your name I pray. Amen. I'm going to tell you one quick practical thing that's helped me prioritize. It was finding other people that wanted to do something together to get better. Right now, and this was dumb. I don't even know why I agreed to do this, but it's been so good for me. So I don't know why I'm calling it dumb, but it is dumb, okay? There was a group of us that we were like, hey, we're tired of feeling out of shape. We're tired of not feeling good. And so we were like, hey, we're going to do this 75 soft, which is dumb. Okay? It's dumb. If you've heard of the 75 hard, that's dumber. Okay? We were like, we can't do hard, so we're not even going to try. Let's do the soft version, the hard version. And so there's literally 18 of us right now at my church in a group chat, which has almost become like a small group at this time. Like, we're encouraging each other, all these things. But today, I think we only have like 26 days left. Thank you, Jesus. But every day you have to work out. Like, for 75 days, you have to work out every day for 45 minutes. And you have to drink 100 ounces of water every day. Yeah. The first few days was real rough. We were all in the bathroom all day long. And half of us all work at the church together, and there's not that many bathrooms, okay, in the office. So we're like all running down to the foyer and the lobby trying to, like, drink our water. You have to read 10 pages of any book you want a day, and stick to whatever meal plan you choose. Again, dumb. Right? I don't know how they convinced me to be like, not just to do it, but to be like the like megaphone for this, right? Because there was 3 of us that agreed, 4. There was 4 of us that originally started. And then I was like, hey, you should do it with us. You should do it with us. I'm like, why am I getting everybody to do this? I don't even want to do this. Okay? And now there's 18 of us, and they're doing it. And the reality is, I told them, I was like, if it had only been 4 of us, I'd have made it to day 4. Like, I would have given up but I'm also competitive, so I didn't want to be the first one to tap out. And at this point, I'm like, well, I've already made it this far. We're past the point of no return, right? So I was up early this morning working out. But the truth is this, if you're going to do these things, if you're going to prioritize yourself and you're going to love others well, you need to let people know. You need to find some accountability in your life that's going to be able to go, hey, you said you're going to prioritize yourself, but you're not. Or that's going to go, hey, you said you were going to be present for other people, and instead you just keep staying home. So let other people in on what you're going to do to become better and to love others better so that they can hold you accountable. And maybe they'll do it with you, and then more people are going to get loved better, and more people are going to be healthier. So invite people along on the journey with you. And, yeah, that's all I got for you guys this morning. So thank you for hopping in here, and I'll talk to you later.